All right. So today I'm super excited that we have on Ernest Goes a Network podcast, a great friend of mine and business coach, entrepreneur, you known author, seven-time book author, Fong Chua. So thanks coming all the way down from here from Canada. I like it.
Hey,
Welcome.
happy to be part of this. Thank you.
Absolutely. So obviously, in your background there as well, you also have a podcast called Peak Potential Success Show. You've been doing that for quite a few years now. How many years altogether?
It's 4 years and counting.
4 years and counting. I like it. Yeah, you're up
Episode
into like the
two
episodes
hundred
like
something.
220 something right now.
Something. Yep.
That's
Mr.
fantastic.
Mr. Ernest here is like 224, 225.
225. Yeah. I was almost, I was like, because we always talk about numbers, right? Like how numbers kind of play effect in the world. And so 227 has always kind of been a big number for me because I used to go back to my childhood phone number.
Should
And
have
so
waited 2 more weeks.
yeah, I was close. I was close, 225. But well, thanks for being on the show. And today we're gonna kind of dive in a little bit more of your real estate backside, your backstory, and then kind of where you started at with that, and then transitioning into doing becoming the author and the podcast, and kind of the sequence of your story. So and fill us in a little bit, if you will.
Yeah, sure. So born and raised in Edmonton, Alberta, I thought to find a good job, be in that job for the rest of my life kind of thing. So when I got my job as a structural engineer, I thought, okay, so this is the next 40 years of my life. And a lot of people in that industry realizes that eventually you'll become a number, depending on the market and all that kind of stuff. Like in Edmonton, Alberta, our biggest thing is oil and gas. So
Mhm.
if oil is good, then everybody's happy. If oil is down, then everybody gets laid off. And in 2007, 2008, that's when I experienced my first downturn in the industry. And our company at the time was at 826, 27 people down to 122. So it was a massive layoff because there was no work and all that kind of stuff. So fortunately, I was able to be kept by the company at the time. But my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, decided to go and pick up Rich Dad Poor Dad and says, "What if? What if this doesn't work out?" So we picked up Rich Dad Poor Dad and went into a deep dive into real estate and business and that whole mindset that was completely brand new to us. We signed up for coaching for real estate and then quickly realized that as good as we are at analyzing deals, we were missing the coaching aspect. We were missing that person who's going to be there to guide us along to kind of mitigate the risks that we might be jumping into. And then so we got that, built our real estate portfolio from 0 properties to about 23 properties and over 32, 33 units in over 5 years or so. So then from there, coach goes, why don't you start doing some speaking? So we start doing some speaking. He starts asking us to write some books. We'll write some books and then start doing podcasts, do some podcasts. So that's a very quick version of how we went from 100% engineering to right now doing a whole bunch of speaking, book writing, podcasting, and all that great stuff.
Nice. I love the story. So the bridge behind you, is that part of the structural engineering side that you used to do?
It's uh it's one of those things that kind of ties me back to my engineering background.
Nice. I also came from the engineering backside, but I got into more of the architectural side. So, but when I got out of college, I went to go work for a steel structure fabrication company, and so I ended up doing a lot of the steel fabrication design. And
Mm.
we got into where we're at is like in the lower part of Ohio, West Virginia, so and Pennsylvania. So very big steel mills all throughout that whole segment. And so it was fun because like you got to see the guys down the shop making what you're drawing lifelike, and then they disassemble it, and we would go install it in these places. Some of the large parts we're doing like pickling tanks and monorail systems, and very unique pieces that were in there. So the one fun part, we did a uranium they did uranium pucks, and or no, is it uranium? Yeah, uranium. And uranium pucks. Well, anyway, they had like this fire suppression system we had to put in. It was like you had like literally 20 or 30 seconds to get out. These doors come down, like it just wipes out the oxygen out of it. You know, it's this big security thing. And so it's fun to be a part of some of those large, large things like that, especially something like a bridge, right? And when you drive over it all the time, it'd be like, hey, I had something to do with that, right?
I've never designed anything that fancy. All the stuff that I've worked on were pretty industrial stuff. So
Yeah.
concrete blocks, steel structures, and whatnot. Nothing like a bridge.
Yeah,
Funny thing
nothing.
is when I first thought about started thinking about my career and whatnot, I was thinking about architecture. So somebody told me that the closest thing to architecture is engineering, and then the first class of engineering was we're not we hate architects. I'm like, oh great, this is a good start.
Yeah, it's a love-hate relationship for sure. Because the architect side they want to do the design, the pretty, and make it look good, and then you have the structural side of it. It's like, all right, how do we make all this work and then do it with integrity and stuff, right? And it also
Yeah.
depends on where it's being built. Like Frank Lloyd Wright, I love a lot of his architectural parts and pieces. So we went to the Falling Water, which is in Pennsylvania area, and which is just a beautiful place anyway. And when you see it in pictures, it just doesn't do it justice. But the engineering behind that, and like the it overhangs like the waterfall that comes into it. Very cool piece. It's probably one of my favorite pieces of
Mhm.
his. But anyway, so got into the real estate side and you caught that bug. Your coach says, "Hey, you're doing well with that. Let's pivot a little bit and get you into doing some speaking, and then pivot from that a little bit. Let's get you into being an author, and pivot from and going into um, you're writing your books and then more speaking. And I'm missing something else there.
Podcasting and whatnot. Yep.
Podcasting. That's it. Yeah, here we are. Um, so when I had met you originally is several months ago at this point, but we met at one of our mutual um, seminars, and I think it was from one of your coaches and one of my coaches and JT. So we end up kind of getting into um, the same rooms, learning the same and meeting a lot of people with the same mentality and mindset as us. And so it's kind of a breath of fresh air, if you will. So it's a pleasure meeting you and being able to kind of converse with you over these last few months. The so really, I guess where I'm looking at, so in the real estate space, it was you and your wife now, or your wife back then also?
Well, at the time when we met, she was already my wife.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, back when you guys got started into your real estate, when you
It
guys,
was funny because when we started in real estate, we were still dating, and I was one of those people who always went to JT's events whenever he comes to Alberta where I'm at, and I had to send him a message saying, "Yeah, I can't make it this weekend because I'm actually gonna be in Orlando getting married, so I'm sorry."
well, I think they probably bought you a pass anyway. The he probably still brings it up to you, but uh,
It's all
but
good.
the well, that's great. Well, so the real estate space, are you guys still doing a lot more in the real estate side?
Yeah, we're still involved. We still have rental property that we manage and maybe partner up with and whatnot. So it's something that I'm still always involved with because if there's a good deal, I'm always listening. Um, yeah,
You guys do all your real estate investing in Alberta?
most of it, yeah.
Yeah, okay. As I say, because I have a lady that I'm talking with right now that's in the eastern part of Canada, and she's wanting to start investing in the States. And I looked at that, I was like, man, I think right now currently it's $1.38 to a dollar. Like you lose money by wanting to invest it in the States. And I was like, I get it. I understand why you'd want to, but on the same side, it's like, on $100,000, you're losing, $38,000. It's like, oof, you know,
Yeah.
um, it's
Hey,
hard to,
as long as the numbers work out and you take all that into factor that into your numbers and all that
yeah,
kind of stuff, and it still works, then all for it.
yeah, just keep on going with it. But and that's kind of where Because like even when we talk with a lot of people that are in our groups that come in from all up, all across the world, Australia and England, so obviously the conversion rate plays a big part in that. It's like my wife's from down in Mexico, and so for every dollar we have here, I think it's like 18 pesos down there. So it's got a very good exchange rate for us, right? Going down, but coming back, not so much. It's very poor. But so it's like whether, we try to do something here locally and stay, producing that income in the States and then move it down is a different story. But um,
Exactly.
well, fantastic. So you got into writing books, and so this has been going on now for how many years you've been writing books?
Ooh, I think my first book was in 2011, 2012 or so.
And what was the name of the first book?
Make More Work Less. It's basically an introduction to all the stuff that we were involved in. When we started into the real estate space, we were introduced to so many different things that we never learned about, like investing into gold and silver, network marketing, the four different types of exit strategies for real estate. How do you buy insurance so that you can retire off of insurance and all that kind of stuff, exempt markets. So all that stuff was stuff that we were talking to people a lot about. Because when people, hey, what do you do? I'm like, well, I do this, I do this, I do this. And then that conversation goes on for a good hour, 2 hours, whatever.
Yeah.
As long as they let me talk, I'll be talking about all those things. And then my coach is, why don't you just write that as your first book? So really, it's an introduction to all the stuff that we do. If
Okay.
people are interested after reading it, then I connect them to the right people to get things set up. Or if it's real estate, they come to me.
Nice. I like it. So then subsequently you've had uh, what, four other books that kind of follow the same, work more or work less, make more.
Yeah. So basically, what would happen, and I'm sure a lot of people out there uh, who who question this, you'll experience it when you start writing your first book. The first thing that comes to mind is I don't have enough content. I can't finish writing a book. Then you start writing, it's like, frick, I have way too much content. Where am I going to put all this stuff, right? So within that first year, we had 3 books written and we just released them one after another because we're like, if I put this all into one book, my book's going to be over 400 or 500 pages long.
Yeah.
And you don't want that. So you realize that you have so much information in you to share that until you start sitting down and start typing it out, you go, wow, I never knew I had this much content. So that's how the first 3, 4 books came out. The fourth book was kind of a dare because somebody asked me, if need be, how long would it take you to finish a book? I'm like, if I had to, I could probably finish a book in a month from scratch. And they go, prove it. I'm like, okay, sure, let's do it. So,
Done.
long story short, I did a 30-minute presentation on mindset, and I took that presentation, transcribed it, put a cover on it, and it was done. So that's how I've published that book,
Fantastic.
and a few books where I'm collaborating with other people. But yeah,
Is
that's the
that
whole book.
so? In the backside, you have make more mind bites. Is that the one that you're referring to?
Make More Mind Bites is a video series that I got challenged with doing.
Okay.
It was one of those things where being on camera was very, very difficult for me. In fact, I researched it and found out that, you know what? I have ego depletion. That's why I can't do videos. And people called me on my BS and challenged me to do a video a day and all that kind of stuff. And during the mastermind, I go, I can't do this. There's no way. He goes, okay, why don't you just promise to do one video a week for a whole year? Instantly, I went from 365 videos down to 52. I'm like, okay, I could probably do that. And before I could say no, 3 other people stood up and goes, well, if Fong does it, we'll do it. And then somebody else pulled out their phone, went on Facebook Live and goes, hey, we're at this mastermind. 4 of us is going to be on this challenge. We're going to be talking about Fong. And like, well, now I'm committed. And that's how that series started.
Fantastic. And that's what it takes sometimes, right? It just takes a little bit of that little push,
Exactly.
and you're committed to three other people, and you don't want to let them down or let
Later,
yourself.
I found out that I was the only one that was still doing it after a year. And when I went back and questioned them on it, and they go, yeah, well, I didn't plan on doing it. I just wanted to see if you would do it. I'm like, oh, well, thank you.
Well, yeah, that's it, right? So we talked, and I years ago I came across a speaker it just kind of resonated a little differently with me and kind of to the mind side. And all he did is had like the A period, Y period. And we had talked about this a little bit, but the A period, Y period that he had on the board, he just let sit there for a little bit. And everybody just kept looking at it, and I included. And then finally he gets to the point of his presentation. He's talking about the AY being amaze yourself. So is that was kind of the thing is like, hey, I can write a book in 30 days. Hey, I can do this, the videos and these things. And, because other people are doing these and there's not a reason why I can't do it. There's not a reason why I can't learn to speak, and there's not a reason why I can't learn to do, the real estate and can't learn to do all these things because everybody else that's doing them, they're human just like us, and they learn how to do it. They learn how to go out in space and all that. And can you go out in space? Sure. You just may not have the time and stuff like it, to do it right now, right?
Yeah,
Or there's
it comes down to how much you actually want to do it.
yeah.
Because if I go, hey, do you run?
Oh, you're asking me if I
Yeah,
no.
do you run? Do you ever aspire to run a marathon by any chance?
I have not a full marathon, half marathons, that I've done, but yeah, no,
Hmm.
it was
Well,
never my. I was more of a short distance runner.
well, I can tell you this. I'm purely a short distance runner. I ran 100, 200 in junior high
Track,
and high school. I did
yeah,
relays, always short distance. Marathon running is one of those things that I said I would never ever do. And after realizing that somebody else was able to do it, and the guy was like 3 times my size, and I go, well, if that person could do it, I could probably do it. And eventually, the motivation was that, first of all, my wife and I are big Disney fans, and they have a Disney marathon.
okay,
So their medals are just a great collector's item. So that was what convinced us to do a Disney marathon. And the th next thing is when you start reducing the requirements, then you start to go, okay, it's doable.
yeah,
Because people think marathons are impossible. You can't do that. I'm like, well, what if I give you 8 hours to do it? I'm like, okay, that sounds more possible now.
yeah,
What if there's bands all the way down the line cheering you on, playing music, people in costumes? Like, okay, that's entertaining. I could probably do 8 hours of that. And
yeah,
then all of a sudden, like, ah, you finished it.
yeah, and you can get it finished in a couple hours, right?
Well, not a couple.
No, that's like the
There's a
world
reason why I
record.
said 8 hours.
Hey, yeah, the end of the day is that you finished and you got the medal. And like I've done like the Tough Mudders and the Spartans, and I've done some of those. Like to me, I'd much rather do those, increments of running and then doing an activity.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like the same thing with sports. Like I'd rather play the sport than just go um run. Like I'd rather go play soccer where
Mm.
I'm actually playing a sport and doing the exercise than just go out and just go run. Like for whatever reason, for me, I'd rather do something in that side. But
I commend you for that for doing the Tough Mudder. I've seen pictures. I think it's gross.
no, yeah, I mean it totally is. But it's fun. We've done those. We've done like the color runs where you just running through and just bubbles everywhere or whatever.
Yeah.
And so they got some fun ones that are out there. But Spartan, I tell you, Spartan was definitely a challenge. I mean, you're that at some point you're lugging like 35 pounds, of weight up a hill.
Mm.
You're doing these different obstacles. You have to climb the rope, right? And you got people climbing behind you. So it's like if I fail, I'm like taking out like four people below me, and that's bad, so you have kind of like that motivation behind you as well, but also that everybody's there to help you, right? So it's like if you're having an issue, you can't get over a wall, like someone's usually there to kind of help you, and that's kind of the coach, right? So in that regard is like you got to get out there and try. You got to get out there and amaze yourself and really kind of push yourself. And sometimes all it takes is just someone to say, hey, Fong, I'm with you. I want to see you do 50 videos and stuff like that. And I'm gonna do them with you. And you're like, hey, that's all I need, right? You just need some of that
Exactly.
confidence to go along with it. So well, you obviously get into doing some coaching and things now yourself. So what's your primary strategy for coaching? Are you more into the speaking side of coaching and or the real estate side, or what's your forte in that?
It's pretty much a wide net. I do coach in real estate. I coach people getting their first rental properties, how do you scale that and all that kind of stuff. One of my other focuses is helping people get their books out within 3 to 4 months. I don't challenge them with regards to 1 month complete time, but 3 to 4 months is very, very doable. And then also in the speaking side, if people wants to work on their public speaking and being more confident and facing that fear of speaking in front of public and all that kind of stuff, it's what I work on as well.
Fantastic. So in the speaking side, are you, so when you're challenging, because obviously when you go in and talking in front of sometimes like a room of 10 people versus a room of like 2,500, 3,000 people, um, stage fright becomes kind of a thing, but then I think it's the mentality side of it, right? It's like, hey, this is just something I'm not used to doing. And but you're practicing, you're kind of getting out there. Is there any kind of uh suggestion that you say, hey, to someone that's watching, that's looking into the speaking side, um, any thoughts on some of those?
Yeah, for sure. Whether it's 10 people or thousands of people, my biggest recommendation is that show up early. If you're a speaker at the event, show up early. Get to know the people who's going to be in the room. If it's 10 people, great. Show up. Don't even say you're the
No.
speaker. Just show up and connect with the people there. And all of a sudden, when you are on stage and you are in front of those people about to talk about a certain topic, you've already built that rapport. It begins to be very familiar. They're like your buddies, your friends that you could share information with. So it doesn't feel like a actual speaking engagement anymore,
Yeah,
especially when it's only 10, 15 people.
yeah,
For a bigger audience, if you're there early, you get a feel for a room. You get to see how other speakers engage with the room. You get to maybe pick out a few people that you've chatted with before the event even started. And now there's that familiarity again. When it gets to be a large audience, honestly, you can only see the front maybe 4 or 5 rows anyways. And when you focus on the people who are
all the
actually paying attention to you, then that's all you really need to care about.
yeah,
All the people in the back, wherever. You just kind of avoid being, avoid having that on your head too much,
yeah.
or else you'll get over nervous and whatnot. So
Well, it's because
that,
that's I was gonna
that's
say
what I
some of the
usually
big stages have like all the lights and everything. So is that's really why you can only see like the first
do.
4 or 5 rows?
The moment you look up, you just see bright lights. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
focus
Look
on the
down.
people down there.
Well, I'll have to make sure that my head's polished. Well, that's some good information there. So when's your next speaking event? Do you have one coming up?
I have some virtual ones that comes up now and then.
Yeah,
I don't have anything scheduled so far, but it's something that like podcast interviews and all that kind of stuff is a regular occurrence.
yeah,
In fact, I actually do have something coming up on Friday. It's a live podcast show that we're doing.
nice. The is there is that for a private group, or is that a group that you want to throw out there for people to
I
attend?
can send you a link to that
Okay.
after the show. Yep.
Yeah, because that way I can go and put that into your links and stuff there too.
Yeah,
Um,
awesome.
but the so yeah, so I mean, obviously, we can kind of go into, so looking at the future side of things for Fong, like where where you want to go from here. Like you got the real estate side, you got the books, you got the speaking, you got the podcast. Like, the podcast is really great for connecting and building that network. Like, are you getting to that monetizing of those relationships through that network? Are you like where are you going from here now, since you're building this all your tools in this tool belt of yours? Like, where are you going next?
Yeah, so the end goal is to expand the exposure, to be able to connect with more people through the podcast, do more shows, and then from there, monetize them through the relationships, right? So, whether that's coaching clients or webinars and whatnot, or conferences that I could speak at, that's usually where it leads to. So, within the next 4 or 5 years, that's where I want to expand to.
Get into more just solely speaking, and
Yep.
then just doing some of the real estate things in the background and all that. Because I mean, real estate stuff is kind of a long play, right? So
Yep.
you buy it, keep it for a while. You know,
Sell it, buy another one.
yes, or buy two and move money here, move money there. Um, well, that's fantastic. So I guess, when we're looking at the speaking side, obviously with JT does a phenomenal job with the speaking and just his knowledge background of worldly, business. One of his goals he wants to do for next year is to be able to hit and speak at the Opera House in Sydney. And I was like,
Mhm.
that's pretty impressive because I don't think they do. I don't know if they've done any speaking there. It's just concerts and stuff that's gone on. So I know that would be kind of a phenomenal goal, right?
That'd
Um,
be pretty cool.
you gonna jump on board with that one when the opportunity comes?
We'll see.
I'll make sure that happens, right? I'm sure he'll probably get that to happen, I guess is the other side of it.
It's a matter of when.
Yeah, exactly, right. The amazing stuff with all the trips. I think a lot of them were just in Bali, just here like last week and stuff, and seeing some of the network of people there, friends of ours that
Mhm.
some of their stories. It's like you got to pick and choose, but that looked like it was a pretty good trip. Other
Oh, yeah.
aside from the 20 something hours of travel.
Hey, as long as you make use of it, it's all good.
Yes, indeed. Well, so we got the peak potential success. You do that quite often. You launch those out every week.
Mhm.
So that's going great for you. So if you're into podcast, make sure you check out Peak Potential Success, with Fong Chua here. If you got there you go. You get the points. I'm still like over here. Um, and then you got the Make More Mind Bites. That's on your YouTube channel. You doing?
Yeah, both is on my YouTube channel. You could watch the podcast there too, and the audio stuff you can find on Spotify and podcasts
Apple
platforms.
Podcast, yeah, on there. Have you gotten into was it Podbean and all the other ones yet too?
Yeah, so I believe it's all on there too.
And that, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and then I'm like, I feel like I should be asking you for all these other things that you got going on because you got a lot of irons in the fire there.
Well,
Um,
people could find me on my YouTube channel, Your Area TV. That's my YouTube channel. You can find my info on fongchua.com and then Facebook, LinkedIn, all that stuff. So,
Fantastic. Well, Fong, I appreciate your time coming on and speaking with us a little bit. Like I said, today we get to just be very just having a conversation, right? And that's really what the networking is about, is to be able to build the rapport and the relationship builds off of that. So I appreciate you and appreciate you coming on board and speaking with us a little bit about it, and look forward to seeing you more and sharing more of your stories.
will do. Looking forward to it. And let me know when you do your first marathon.
I'll be in the 50 plus category these days.
That's fine.
Yeah. So as long, if they can push the time to maybe like 8.5 to 9 hours, I might be good.
Ah,
No,
you sell yourself short. I think
no,
you'll be fine.
actually, I feel like I'm one of those type of people that kind of like you start seeing, hey, if he can do it, I can do it. Right. Um, so I feel like if I saw other people doing it, the competitive side of me would kick in, and yeah, like first mile, I'd be like, I'm done. I'm checking out. But then after you get through that initial pain, I think the other miles start kind of clicking away. So um,
I'll give a quick story. I was like to prep for the marathon. I ran a half marathon in my hometown, and I walked up to the front. I'm like, I'm just gonna start at the front and see what happens. They didn't actually bother corralling people because it's in Edmonton. And right beside me was a former NHL hockey player,
nice,
and he just retired that year. So he's still in pretty good shape.
pretty
So
good
I
shape.
told myself, I'm gonna see how long I can hang with him on this marathon, on this half marathon. By the third kilometer, like, yeah, you could go ahead. I'll take that year.
Well, hopefully later on you're able to get your picture with them. You
I
know,
did that before the run because I wouldn't
that
be able to catch
yeah,
up.
that's good. The Yeah, I mean, especially being up in Alberta and whatnot. I mean, there's some phenomenal players that's coming out of that area. So it's, being a hockey town. So, love me some hockey, that's for sure. I played for
Awesome.
about 14 years.
Woo.
So, yeah, super fun. Never was that great to, get into the pros by any means, but it's more of a recreational thing.
Exactly.
But fantastic. Well, Fong, I appreciate you, and we look forward to having some continuing the relationship, and have you back on follow up here in the next time down the road, and see how many more books you've written and how many more houses you got, and but
Sounds good. We'll compare notes.
we'll indeed we'll do. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Awesome.